Okay.
So Preview GA, what do we have to talk about it?
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of categories to get through.
Yeah.
But one of the first ones is the action game genre. So for the best game in the action genre, focus primarily on combat.
Yeah.
So the nominees are Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus and of course these are all by Deep Silver for Metro Exodus, Coalition for Gears 5. I think Devil May Cry 5's Capcom, got Infinity Ward for Call of Duty, Platinum Games with Astral Chain, and Respawn under EA for Apex Legends.
No question. Is Astral Chain on PC? Astral Chain,
No.
or is it only on Nintendo
Switch?
It's a Switch exclusive.
Switch is
okay. Like I haven't got round to playing it because, of course, I don't own a Switch.
Do you think if the Apex Legend wasn't there for Respawn, that they would have had Star Wars Fallen Order on there if it made it instead of Apex action?
If it had made it, probably, but because it didn't make it, obviously, because of time constraints. But I think even it would have made it into the Game of the Year category. To be honest, like it probably would have taken the spot of one of the other games on there, something like Smash Brothers or something. It probably would have taken the spot of if it had made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely at least for action.
Yeah, I would say it's Capcom's year, man. I think DMC5, maybe critically, I don't know how everyone else, took to it. I think Devil May Cry 5, I think might get that for action.
I haven't gotten a chance to play Devil May Cry, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. And some people are mixed. Some people loved it. Some people were like, eh. I think, what's your prediction on which one's going to win?
Prediction? Well, it's difficult. I think Devil May Cry 5 and potentially, I mean, Apex Legends might win on public vote because it's a battle royale. They're hugely popular right now. But honestly, I mean, I think Devil May Cry 5 might win it, and in my opinion, it'll win it. But I don't know, really. It's quite a losing spread.
Call of Duty, like even though Call of Duty sold bucket loads, like the viewer votes are like 10% weighting, right? I think the judges or the panel votes are 90, and people who vote their weighting is 10%. So I think if we had more weighting, something like Call of Duty might have won. But I think because it's the critics, and from what they've said about DMC5, I think it could be DMC5. I can't speak for the other ones. I can't speak for Apex and what people thought of that. But yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, with you, I think DMC5 has a good shot at that.
I guess the Apex is kind of like on the list because of its popularity and its kind of how it differentiates from other battle royales in a sense. And it has that Titanfall kind of vibe where everyone's like, oh, this and that in the same universe. It's between, I'm not too sure because I haven't heard like too much about Devil May Cry as a whole, as like, oh, it's like the best game of the year, or oh, it deserves this, oh, it deserves that. I felt like it died pretty quickly. As soon as it came out, a couple people played, and then I haven't seen any talk about it ever since. Like just the first probably was a couple of weeks that it first came out, and then what game was it that came out after that? I don't know. It probably wiped out its spotlight or something, but
don't you think
I think it might be between
like it's got Apex and COD with DMC, and what were the other ones? It's a weird combination, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gears 5,
category.
Gears 5, yeah. Metro Exodus and Astral Chain are the other competitors for this category.
Yeah.
I mean, why exactly do you think Devil May Cry 5 should win it, Moen? Like have you played the game yourself, right? So what exactly about it appealed to you as a winner for this category?
No, I think it's just mainly because it was coming off like a poorly received DMC5 by Ninja Theory, right? So expectations were kind of low. This is kind of like a continuation from the old school Japanese style, hyper, the aesthetic felt like a, successor to the DMC4 and that series of games, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I feel like the engine's tight, the visuals are tight, the progression's tight. I think it's not that it's like amazing. I wouldn't say it's like amazing. Like I actually think Metro Exodus is a really, like, it's worthy to be in this category. But I just think that as for what Devil May Cry is, it's a return to form. I think Capcom have so much goodwill this year that a lot of these reviewers can't help but give it to Capcom after Monster Hunter, after RE2, after DMC5. I think they've got so much goodwill this year that if it's down to these critic sites, it'll get that. If it's based on what I think will win, DMC5, what I want to win, DMC5. You know what I mean? I think it's like that.
Yeah, I think I agree on probably most of your points. It's very much a return to what DMC represents, I think.
Yeah.
And the kind of gameplay and themes that uphold it, because DMC, the reboot kind of revitalization, I suppose, of a franchise was very much it didn't feel like DMC, if you know what I mean, like just the general feel of it. Like, of course, it had the gameplay, it had some of this, but it had a very different kind of feel to it, which I think DMC5 captured the feeling and the theme of the original DMCs, which I think is what made the original DMCs so popular, so so renowned. So honestly, I voted for DMC5 for the action game category.
A lot of people say Astral Chain. I know a lot of people hyping up Platinum Astral Chain. Like Platinum's all like ex Capcom guys, and it's using a Bayonetta engine, spiritual, successor to DM. Like it's basically Capcom versus Capcom in a kind of weird way, like Astral Chain being on their Platinum. But I think Astral Chain came out, it just went under the radar because one, it's a new IP. Two, it's even though it's Switch, it's not, it's not like a, visual. I think Capcom, Devil May Cry was never like a visual like showcase, but even DMC5 is not only in terms of performance and action and hyper, it's also visually really great because they're using that engine, right? That RE2 engine, and it looks really photoreal in some scenes, and I think people were just wowed and impressed by the way it showed. Astral Chain is obviously on a popular console, but it's just, it hasn't had time to linger with people, and people are up and down on it. I mean, I don't think it was received as well as people were hyping it up to be. So I think there's that as well.
Yeah. So what did you vote for, Yvette? What was your choice for action game?
So I haven't played the story mode of Call of Duty in Modern Warfare before the Call of Duty when it first came out a couple years ago and stuff like that. I did play bits and pieces, but not enough to actually put it in a category myself. I voted for Gears because out of this whole entire list, the only game that I've played was Gears 5. Okay. Besides Apex, but I'm not very fond of battle royales as me personally, and I still think that I should choose something beyond battle royale in this case. So I chose Gears 5, which was the only one that I played in the category.
Yeah. Okay. So you gave it because you just have an affinity for that game, so that was your vote.
In a sense, I would say that if I picked something, I would feel at fault for, it's like, oh, I just voted for this, but I've never played it, so I'm just voting it for. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like I just need to vote for something that actually I've played. Yeah. So.
Okay. How much did it personally impress you though, Gears 5? Like on a personal level.
Not a lot. What I did like is the diversity that they put into the game. They didn't just do it like the other games. They actually gave it a little bit of that open world element with some RPG in it. And I really, really enjoyed that factor of what they did there. Amongst with the story, it was good, but it's kind of as impressing as the game. Like, wow, this game is so good. No, not to that level at least.
Okay.
Yeah, coming off of 4, I thought even after the first 2 chapters, this game was better than 4, Gears of War 4.
Yeah,
It
I
had
agree with
such a
that.
diversity of the gameplay styles, open world sector, open area sections that had my respect for sure. Yeah,
I felt like
Mm.
4 left us in a hole, left us with so little that it was more like kind of like left us without telling us a lot. I'm not sure how
yeah,
to explain that exactly, but I think that Gears 5 really put it as a whole and fulfilled that what Gears of 4 didn't
Okay.
have, Gears of 5 did have.
yeah.
I see.
What do you think will win the bet then, versus what you want to win?
I think Call of Duty might win.
You think?
Call of Duty.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. That pick.
Mm.
Yeah,
I guess it's
Okay.
because of the way people reacted towards the story and the way the controversy and stuff like that. It might have an impulse into actually winning something. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think Call of
I can
Duty.
see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to the next one because we've got a lot to cover
Yeah.
yeah.
over the course of next hour and a half or so. So the next category is action adventure game. So this is for the best action adventure game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. So the ones we have here are Borderlands 3 by Gearbox, Control by Remedy, Death Stranding by Kojima Productions, Resident Evil 2 by Capcom, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening by Grezzo from Nintendo, and Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice from Software. So this is quite
This is the
a
toughest.
this is
the
a tough
toughest
one. This one,
category.
I think I couldn't. When I was going through this, I already felt like I could eliminate Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I'd
for
say.
I
me,
can definitely.
that felt like the weakest link out of that entire list of games.
For
Yeah, I've not played
Borderlands,
it, but I've heard. Yeah,
I've played Borderlands 3 and I don't feel like it I don't know. It just doesn't fit with amongst these categories that are in the competition. You're right. It is the weakest from all of them.
It's not in the same caliber, really.
No.
Like not to say
Borderlands
like
has traversal. I mean, yeah, I know it has
um,
traversal, but why
um
wasn't it an action? I see. I'm still wondering. Apex,
I
COD,
mean
Borderlands, like kind of should be in the similar.
I suppose it's the fact that Borderlands 3 has an open world, right? Or open world
Yeah,
sections which have places that you can explore. Like, there's different levels as well. Like you can go up certain mountains through cliffside paths and stuff. So I guess
Yeah.
there's a element of traversal and combat, right? There's not so much puzzle solving. But I can understand why I understand that it fits the kind of thing, but it just feels very out of place amongst some of these. So
yeah,
I mean, my choice out of these was Control.
yeah,
Just because I like it becomes a recurring theme when these two games are in the same category. When Control
yeah,
and Resident Evil 2 are in the same category, I usually have like a fight going on between them. But I've always
yeah,
kind of felt like the thing is that Control was so underappreciated by
yeah,
people. It just wasn't in people's view as much as perhaps Resident Evil 2 remake was.
yeah,
So that kind of tipped it for me because I felt
yeah,
like Control basically made you utilize your entire arsenal instead of giving you so much freedom that you ignore certain abilities and stuff.
yeah,
And the story, the whole kind of theme of it, and feeling, just the general kind of atmosphere of the game was something that
yeah,
was, I think, really solid.
How
So
yeah.
long did it take you to finish Control?
it took me around somewhere between 10-15 hours. So I want to say 13 hours maybe, because there's a lot
Okay.
of side stuff you can do. So there are side quests, and there are things that you can kind of branch off and explore at your own pace. So you think some areas aren't mandatory, similar to Resi 2 remake,
Yeah.
but just I think it was probably due to the fact that I felt that Control wasn't given as much appreciation as I felt it deserved.
Would you
Um,
say it's better than Resident Evil 2?
hmm. Um,
Because you're doing it out of appreciation, but now
Well,
would you consider this one of your
I would
one of the
probably
top games you played of the year
Oh yeah,
for
definitely,
for action adventure
definitely
over
for,
Resident Evil 2?
for Resident Evil 2. I think the thing is, they're very. It's very close. That's the difficulty. But I think Control probably had a bit more than Resi 2 remake. Just for me personally, I think maybe the
Yeah.
fact that the character has more fluidity and movement rather than sort of kind of being stuck in a particular kind of running state or walking state. Control felt a little bit more fluid, and it meant that you could get to different levels and different areas by using your abilities and the way that Jesse moves around. So I think probably Control for me for action adventure was probably just a bit ahead of Resi 2 remake.
Did it contain
You know-
puzzle solving and combining combat?
Yes. In a way, certain enemies did have their own kind of way that you'd have to overcome. So, for instance, one enemy might enclose himself in rubble. So that means when you shoot at him, the bullets won't reach him. So you have to go, well, how can I, deal with this guy? So there's an ability you learn in the game, like telekinesis, for example. So you pick up things in the environment, bits of the floor, or bits of items or furniture in the room, and you chuck them at him, and it knocks away the rubble. So then you can, start attacking him and doing damage. So there is a sense of almost like puzzle solving to the combat, not necessarily traditional like connect up these dots together to power the grid or whatever. Like it's more kind of puzzle solving integrated or just general thinking in terms of the combat. So yeah, I think there would be if you call it that.
I think sorry before like I want to speak to what Baker said. Like I can see all the merit, right? Like the Baker said about Control. I think Control is a game that is just forever gonna be known as the game that got slept on, right? I think the problem with this category is like Control, Sekiro, RE2 Remake are like Metroidvania style games. You're in a space and you're going non-linearly in directions, unlocking new areas, coming back, having stronger weapons in your arsenal to unlock other areas. They're really similar. I can see if you knocked the Borderlands out and like Star Wars had made the cut, it would have been in this category. And that's also another Metroidvania style, Dark Souls style, backtracking style
I
game.
do
So they're all
think that
similar.
Star Wars should have been in this category.
It should have.
I agree with you.
I think
Should have,
I personally feel Sekiro will win. My heart says Resi 2, but I don't think it will take this category because there's so many strong contenders. And Death Stranding as well. Like we can't forget that's like a wild card sort of game because it's so divisive.
I'm gonna go with you. I think Sekiro is going to win for this category. I've personally played it, and I feel like it has the most between combining combat, puzzle solving, action, and adventure. In this category, the most it would be Sekiro. At least this is me. I've played all of them, and all of them have the bits and pieces. But I think that these are strong, very, very strong. But I think the most that would get the most votes would be Sekiro, I would say.
But what do you think? What would you want to win? Like,
Sekiro. I've played it, and I would see that it combines with everything. With combat, with the puzzle solving, with the difficulty on how to do this and how to do that, and you actually have to put that thought process and how to beat this enemy and how to do this, and there's no way of putting it easy. You would have to like literally sweat and tears just to grind out that level in order for you to pass to the second part. So if Star Wars were in this category, I would probably go for Star Wars.
Okay.
But
what about Death Stranding on this list? What do you guys think of that inclusion? They want this game to win. Something.
I don't think it's really an actual adventure game. There is an element. I suppose there is an element of traversal, but I think that it lacks something. I think all of these games, including Borderlands 3, even has. And I've never really felt that there's really an element of combat. All of these games have combat apart from Death Stranding has it in a sense. But it's almost not as if it's mandatory. or it's something that isn't actually a full-fledged part of the game. Adventure, like I totally understand, but action for me, like there's bits and pieces that you could say are action, but the game doesn't revolve around them. It doesn't make them mandatory parts of the game, which all of these other games do to some extent. Like, you know, you have to either shoot or you have to like kill, or you know, to get through a dungeon or whatever. You know, that's
This
what
is
I
why
think.
Kojima calls it new genre, right? It's hard to place it in any one thing. Like I'm sure they had to place it in this genre because it's the closest they could do. You know, it's got Souls-like elements. It's got, you know, online elements where, you know, social elements. It's got shooting elements. It's got kind of traverse. But Kojima calls it like a new genre, right? But if there was any category they could put this in, I think this is the closest. But I don't think it does anything best in class like the other ones. I think Sekiro has amazing combat. I think Resident Evil has just really good gunplay. I don't think the gunplay in Death Stranding is particularly, you know, great. I think the world is beautiful and amazing, but it's not the most captivating world I've ever seen. So I feel like as much as we like Death Stranding, it doesn't do any one thing best in class. I think like you say, Control does combat, shooting, gunplay really good. Resident Evil does what it does really, really, really good, and Sekiro does what it does in some areas really, really good. So
yeah, definitely.
For Death Stranding, I feel like it doesn't hit a lot of, first of all, without spoiling it too much, because I know, Mon, you haven't played it too much.
Yeah.
With the combat, I don't feel like it was very challenging in a sense for majority of the game. The game focuses more on kind of delivering and getting past certain points, traveling and getting through the hard terrain and hard weather in order for you to get to the next part of the story. Less of a, let's just say, puzzle solving. There wasn't really much puzzle solving in the game. It was just more of a walking to your destination and getting to that point where you want to know more what happens, or get that or that hunger of, oh, what's gonna happen next, or what is this? I don't understand this. I want to know more. But to be part of to win this category, there's so many other categories that Death Stranding is in. I don't know, like I really think that Sekiro should get this, but out of this category, I don't think Death Stranding would win.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next category then. Next category is art direction. So this is for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. So the nominees for this one are Control by Remedy, Death Stranding, again by Kojima Productions, Gris by Nomada Studio under Devolver Digital, Sayonara Wild Hearts by Simogo or Simogo, Sekiro again from Software, and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening by Grezzo. So let's say, I mean,
I would definitely go for Death Stranding on this category.
Yeah, I think so. Just from the ones I've played, I'd probably agree with you there. Death Stranding.
Death Stranding, I know you've gotten to a certain point on it, Baker. So I've gotten a little further, and from what I've seen from that little bit that you still have to catch up, which is probably approximately 5 hours to 6 hours ahead of you from where you left off. Okay. There is some events and some things. Literally, I'm just gonna tell you this, that Kojima intends to destroy you.
Okay.
At the final part of Death Stranding. I haven't finished the final part. I still approximately have like 3 hours left of gameplay, of pretty much story, because once you hit a certain point in the game, it just hits you with a ton of story, a ton of information that you're just like, wait, what? Like, what? And the creativity putting into this game, I would say that it's I haven't seen a game similar to this. Besides the gameplay itself, because the gameplay, I don't think it was the greatest of them all, but regarding the story, I feel like this should have been a movie. If this was a movie, it would have been just as great as it is as a game.
Yeah.
It does have an artistic design, and the animation within the cutscenes, within the simultaneously moving from your character to a cutscene, and having these weather effects, the world, and everything. I would say that the art direction should go to Death Stranding in this category.
Yeah, definitely.
We've seen so many post-apocalyptic, mundane, generic post-apocalyptic worlds. I think when Death Stranding came along, it gave you something new and fresh, right? Something you never seen or expected, like time for rain that ages everything, the mystery of the Death Stranding,
So
porters, delivery guys. Like, it's unique. You know what I mean? It's
yes,
original and unique and artistic. I feel like it's got a vision, right?
during
for
the
that
end during the end of the game, sorry about that, I interrupted. During the end of the game, like, you kind of understand what the story is taking, the direction of the story, and it's so fascinating. You're like, what? How did you even think of this? You know what I'm saying? Like, some people would do like what you said, the post-apocalyptic, and it's like all similar, all the end of the world, zombies, or like or what's this from Borderlands, Outer Worlds or Borderlands. Those are kind of similar. Fallout. Dystopian. It all falls into the same category, and I feel like games are just repeating the same concept. With Death Stranding, it just gave us like a new taste of like what is going on. Like, another version of an imagination that you couldn't think. Kojima has a mind that I don't know where he gets this information from, or how I feel like he's dreaming and he gets that all in a dream, and then he just wakes up, writes it down, and just put it in a game or a movie.
Yeah, well, it's because he's very familiar with a lot of different indie movies and stuff like that. So a lot of that tends to sort of come out in his work, things that he's seen and gone, oh, that's cool, I want to do that. So honestly, like, I remember when I first started playing, like, even if, there's some great stuff towards the end of the game, there's some really beautiful imagery at the start of the game. The stuff that I'd imagine Moen's experience, like there's a scene where they're on the beach and it's sunset, or like the sun's really close, and there's the dead whales on the beach, and it's so
upside down rainbows and weird like phenomena.
Oh, you'll understand when you hit. Okay. I'll just stop.
But yeah, it's something to put it in a 2D landscape, which I think a lot of these here have, one or two of these here has made something truly artistic in a 2D landscape, but it's definitely something harder and something a lot more vibrant, and something it's harder to do, I think, to create something so artistically amazing and beautiful in a 3D landscape, because you're having to think about how this will work if it's cornered between this and that, instead of having it sort of laid out on a canvas, really. But for 3D, it's how do things move around this thing, how does the camera pan to this, like it's very different. And I think Death Stranding very much nailed what it wanted to show and wanted to create, and I think it's definitely done it to the best degree.
Baker, you can add to this, but I honestly feel like we're saying Death Stranding, but I honestly feel like you can add to this. Like, it will go down to Control and Death Stranding, I feel, because I know you've got a lot to say about Control, because that's got really artistic, David Lynch, Twin Peaks, lots of inspirations in there, bold, artistic, abstract sort of story going on. Like, what would you? I'm surprised you didn't mention Control. Like,
well, the thing is, the thing is with Control is that I think it's really difficult actually when I'm thinking about it again, but there is some really very sort of creepy imagery to Control. Just you'll enter a room, say for instance, and it will be almost like it's draped in like a red light, this sort of really crimson red light, and you'll see like bodies up in the air just floating just floating, just like contorted, and it's so creepy, and you know that any second something could come out and attack you.
Yeah.
But there are definitely aspects of that I think it really does well.
Yeah.
But if I was to put it against Death Stranding, I think there's just something about the way that Kojima has sort of visualized this entire world,
Yeah.
and sort of these ideas. Like, I just think there's more ideas in Death Stranding than there perhaps is in Control. As beautiful and as dark and grotesque as certain things in Control might be, there's just more ideas, I think, that Death Stranding utilizes and then sort of brings them to life, I think, in a very, very sort of solid way. I think, that's why I think it would win.
Are you guys familiar with these other games, Gris and Sayonara? Like, any of you guys?
Well, I've heard of Gris. And I do want to check it out at some point, but I haven't played it. Sayonara Wild Hearts is something I hadn't heard of before
I
the
haven't
VGAs,
heard
but
of either.
I'm aware now that it's a mobile game, so that's probably why I wasn't very interested in it, or had no knowledge of it.
Like most of
So,
us.
I think
pretty
isn't
much.
Gris a mobile game as well?
No, I don't think it is. I think it might be on mobile, but I think it was intended to come out on PCs as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
I see.
Okay.
I've seen people play Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, but I personally, with the contendants of Control and Death Stranding, I still see those two as the top two for the art direction for the VGA.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, I think we're all in agreement on Death Stranding.
I think it's
Death
unanimous. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next category, which is audio design. So this is recognizing the best in in-game audio and sound design. So the nominees here are Call of Duty Modern Warfare by Infinity Ward, Control by Remedy, Death Stranding by Kojima Productions, Gears 5 by the Coalition, Resident Evil 2 by Capcom, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice by From Software.
That's a tough one as well.
Yeah, it is. But I think for me, what utilized audio design the best, for just in-game audio and sound design, I think I have to give it to Resident Evil 2. And the reason I say that is because I think all of the sound effects and the way the game makes you feel, it hits exactly this horror aspect. I like Moen can, advocate for this as well. Like there were parts I was streaming Resident Evil 2, right, and there's the lickers. You remember the lickers of it?
The lickers,
yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
And just hearing them,
the breathing,
knowing they were about. That is what sent shivers down my spine, and I felt like, oh fuck, like, there's lots of great sounds like Mr. X, the footsteps clomping. You can hear him a floor above as well, like he's up there. So for me, I thought the sound design and just the general in-game audio, without a doubt, for me, like, is between Death Stranding and Resident Evil 2, but I think Resident Evil 2 has to just sort of take it away here for me, I think.
I might have to agree with you on that. I personally chose Death Stranding, but now with your point of view and the way that you kind of said it as you articulated it as a horror aspect and the way it made you feel. When I played Resident Evil 2, I did feel that, and I kind of agree with the points that you made on the audio design for Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
I do want to mention Sekiro though, because I feel like the clanging of blades and steel and the audio cues are so important to that game. I felt like maybe in small aspects Sekiro had really great sound design and enemy creatures screeching, and but like you say, I think Resi 2 definitely overwhelms whatever Sekiro did. I feel it's deserved, like Sekiro being in this category.
What do you think about Call of Duty being in this category? How do you feel
I would say
taking place in there.
So I haven't played the campaign much. I remember playing it back in the day before it was remastered. I've seen people stream it, and I've seen a little bit of how people react towards each and every scene. There are some very, very controversial and very emotional moments that I also think that the audio and game design do implement into that game. In sense
Okay.
of war, you feel like you're in war. The way this game was executed within war, you feel like, oh my god, what's going on here? Like, there's some decisions that you make that you're like, oh god, this is really bad. Like, this is a terrible decision, which is some I've seen people do and take it as a joke, which I'm like, oh no, that's not funny, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But I do think that Call of Duty does deserve to be in this category as well, because of the way that they implement how
Okay.
war really happens, and how what you feel and what decisions you need to make as a veteran or as a person that's in the spotlight of deciding who to save and who to not, while the sound effects of the shooting, the horrible bombings and situations that happens in real life war. I think it implements
Okay.
in a very good way, or no, not good way, but like it implements it well, what war really is, in a sense.
Okay.
A lot of people complain about the way guns sound in first-person shooters. So when guns sound really good, they end up making it into these categories. Oh,
Yeah.
this gun sounds really punchy and really, I've seen many people complain about Halo and other first-person shooters. Oh, this pistol sounds like a fucking squirt gun or a pea shooter or something like. And whenever there's good audio for feedback on gun play, I feel like they end up making it into stuff like this, because I remember there was an FPS called Black back in the day that was
Yeah.
like everyone was saying the guns sound amazing and the feedback is amazing, and then they end up getting notoriety for their sound design. Maybe COD is in there for those reasons and the reasons you say of it, like the wartime designs, the ringing in your ears, the shelling, all the sound design. So
The feeling
I
of
don't
being
mind
at
it being
war.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
All
imagine
right.
it being there.
Okay. Well, let's move, because I think we were all pretty much in agreement with Resident Evil 2 for
Yeah.
sound design. Okay. So the next category is community support. So I don't know if you chose one for this, Moen, or not, but this is for recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness. So the ones in this category are Apex Legends by Respawn, Destiny 2 by Bungie, Final Fantasy 14 by Square Enix, Fortnite by Epic Games, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege by Ubisoft Montreal. So yeah, you probably don't have really much connection to this category, Moen, but
What is this category? Is this like games or services that fucked up and then they did right by
I don't
the
know whether
community?
It's kind of similar to that.
I don't know whether
It
that's
feels like it.
I
It feels like
don't think that's the entirety of it. I think it's how
No.
Where's No
the
Man's Sky? Yeah.
developers respond or
Yeah.
interact with their community. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they had to be in a bad place to begin with.
Exactly.
It can
Yeah.
mean that they started off really positively and they've stayed really positively with their community.
But
So
it
for-
seems I understand where Moyen's getting to, because it
Yeah,
seems
yeah,
like
yeah.
all of these have been in that point where they have their lows and their highs.
Yeah, but that's to be
Destiny 2
expected. Yeah.
maybe probably
I-
win this. I don't know.
For
I
me-
voted Destiny 2.
Yeah. See, I voted for Final Fantasy 14 because I'm probably the only person who's consistently played it enough to be able to sort of recognize.
But
I
would you
suppose that-
see that the developers and the people that are actually behind the scenes creating this game actually listening to the people when they're saying,
Oh, definitely.
this is not working, please fix this, and they go and they fix it, or oh, this is too expensive, they go ahead and they fix it, or small things, or
but here's the
additions to
thing.
the game.
For Final
Even-
Fantasy 14, they recently released the new expansion, right? Now,
Shadowbringer.
yeah, so from what I heard from the previous expansion, from some like the really earlier expansions, I think it was Stormblood. I think one of the expansions was. It wasn't as well received, and I think they came back with Shadowbringers and created what is known among the MMO community as probably one of the best MMO expansions of all time. So for me, I like they release content on a 3-month basis, and they release
No,
like a
when you
a
say of
huge
all
stack
time,
of it.
is this your opinion or is this what you've
Well,
seen? From...
it's not necessarily my opinion, but it's a word that's been flung around by people before.
So it's
Um,
opinionated by other people. It's not.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, I'm just sort of saying that for something, this is for connection of the developer with its community, right? And if its community are coming back and saying, well, this might be one of the greatest. I've seen people say, like the story of Shadowbringers, like FF14 was always had a story that was good for an MMO, but I've seen people quoting like, you know, the story has now almost sort of transcended from just being good for an MMO to actually being really good for Final Fantasy standards. So for that, I think the developers obviously listened to what community wanted, or at least had a discussion with themselves about what they could provide for the community to have them respond in such a way. So that's why I'm giving it to Final Fantasy 14 for them doing Shadowbringers, and just for their every 3 months they release like a huge stack of content for people, you know, raids or dungeons or even parts of the story. Like I think each update has like a significant chunk of actual story with cutscenes and stuff. So for me, like I had to give it to Final Fantasy 14.
Like this is the most objective category in all of these. This is about objective measures, like how much has these developers supported, reached out to their communities. A lot of these companies don't reach out. Apex is notoriously bad for like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, right? With our games, and
I wouldn't say
we're not going to have a roadmap. And
for Fortnite and Tom Clancy, I think those two are Fortnite. I would say not so much, but I do see that kind of Fortnite every like season as I do it. They do the amount of changes and the amount of things that they do concurrently. They do it every month. It's like consistently they change something. If something is wrong, the community goes and then they go change it, and they don't like miss a beat. Like I feel like Fortnite does do good in that sense when it comes to their development side of their game. Tom Clancy, I haven't played too much, but I also heard that they like implementing and fixing things, and it's been going on for Tom Clancy has been around for a very long time, it seems, and I have seen developers do kind of like a yes and no. It's like it deserves to be in the category for sure. I haven't played Final Fantasy. I've played it a little bit, but I don't really have that connection with with knowing about, oh, this is bad, the developer should change. I've played Destiny, and I've known Destiny because I've played Destiny 1, and I've known how it was, and then Destiny 2, how it kind of started off a little bit iffy, and then they decided to change that route of being a paid game to being a free game, and actually implementing free DLCs and implementing these things to bring more people, more community, and change. Like literally the most drastic change that I've seen in any game has been on Destiny 2 for me. When playing a game and seeing developers
I could definitely see Destiny 2 having a very good chance of winning. But
it comes down to two, right? FF14 and Destiny.
Yeah, for me, yeah, definitely.
Apex.
Okay, so
it's no, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've
much.
all heard about Apex, and their showing at E3 was very, according to fans of the community, like people in the community, but it was a very disappointing reveal. So honestly, I'm surprised it's even on here, to be honest. Okay, so we've got a lot of categories here that I don't think really many of us have much connection to. So we have like content creator of the year. We've got esports stuff. So I think we're just going to gloss over that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any of us really have much. Like we're not very connected to this sort of side of the gaming community. And I think for family game as well, we'll probably jump over maybe as well, unless you guys feel that there's a that we should sort of take a little dive into that, just to sort of see
What are the
Well,
nominees? Family game?
I have Nintendo. The
Okay.
nominees, I'll say the nominees for this one.
Okay.
Is Luigi's Mansion 3, Next Level Games, Nintendo. Ring Fit Adventure from Nintendo EPD. Super Mario Maker 2 from Nintendo EPD.
Okay.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate from Sora. And Yoshi's Crafted World from Good Feel. So I've played
Okay.
I've only played one in this category, and that's Super Smash Bros. And I just want to put into this that I recently had a family gathering, and I brought my Switch with me, and the game that I played literally with everyone that was there was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, there's more
Okay.
to this anecdote that obviously we can't go into it on the
Yeah.
podcast, but yeah, you can definitely see this being a very good family game, a very good social sort of family game. But I think Mario Maker 2 on that list is really popular, like really,
Yeah.
really, really popular.
Very
It could be
popular.
up
I've seen
against those
things.
two games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Within
would
Super
like
and
to.
Mario.
I probably would like to throw in perhaps Luigi's Mansion 3 because it is very recent. It's a very, well, not very recent, last month or so. And I do remember playing the original Luigi's Mansion. I think it was on GameCube,
yeah,
back on
it
the
was,
Game.
yeah,
And I do
yeah,
remember it being a very solid game. And from what I've heard of Luigi's Mansion 3 is that it's very akin to the original.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be able to say anything regarding because I haven't played it myself. I haven't played any of these games. But I suppose if I was going off of what I've played in the past that might be similar to it, probably Luigi's Mansion 3 I might throw in there. But of course I
yeah.
wouldn't be able to say. I wouldn't be able to say because I haven't really had much experience with any of these games.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now we've gone through a couple of categories. So we're hitting the 46 minute mark.
That's fine.
Uh,
Okay.
let's
Yeah, that's
go
fine.
through. I believe game direction is next.
Ooh, yes,
Game
game
direction.
direction.
Yes. Or do we want to cover the indie games or not? Or do you not feel we've
Is there anything you guys notice on that list that you just want to talk about that you might have played indie game
just for
wise?
indie games, real
I've
quick.
played nothing on them.
Okay, well, there's one that I've played, Disco Elysium. I do want to
Yeah,
talk about it just briefly.
yeah,
I do really think Disco Elysium is a fantastic indie game. It's very sort of, it's very gritty. It's very realistic.
yeah,
And it's sort of a, if you imagine a pen and paper game brought to life, basically,
yeah,
that's very much what Disco Elysium is. You have a lot of freedom to build your character how you want to. You're solving the main story is you're solving a big case, but there's a lot of smaller cases that you can sort of take on.
yeah,
And there's very much kind of running themes of drugs and sort of, you know, there's even racism as well. There's a character you can come across who spouts a lot of racist stuff, and if you want
yeah,
to, you can believe, or maybe your character has traits that make him believe more in what this racist dude is spouting. So your
yeah,
character in the game can become a racist because he meets this dude and he has like,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of really creative ways that they
yeah,
allow you to sort of explore. So you have a freedom
yeah,
to be the biggest dickhead you could possibly be. You even are so free that you can die from sitting on an uncomfortable chair because
yeah,
your fitness is too low. So you die from clogged arteries from sitting on an uncomfortable chair. So there's a lot of
yeah,
really, really cool things that I think this game does.
yeah,
You know, and that's what I would say that I want to kind of sort of put that out there as sort of a game that I really enjoyed and I think is really sort of competent
yeah.
and solid indie game. But
From
yeah,
you and others, I've definitely heard really good things about this game. It's really bold. It's a very bold game in terms of politics, narrative,
definitely.
intellectual discussions and all that. I heard a lot about this game.
Yeah. So of course that's what I'd voted for indie, but we'll move on to game direction,
Okay,
which is
what's on this list?
awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So the nominees are Control again, by Remedy, Death Stranding by Kojima Productions. We've got Resi 2 Remake again from Capcom, Sekiro from Software, and we've got Outer Wilds by Mobius Digital. So those are the nominees.
Yeah, I'd give it to Death Stranding.
Death
Even though I
Stranding.
love Resi 2, I'd give it to Death Stranding.
You know what? I'd have to agree with you there actually, because it's probably the most different. I think the most different
Yeah,
in what it tried
directing
to
wise,
do.
particularly like narrative,
Definitely.
Kojima's vision. Yeah,
Outer Wilds is, don't confuse that with Outer Worlds. It's Outer
yeah,
Wilds, which
wild.
is
Okay,
actually, funnily enough, I think it's another Epic Game Store exclusive. So I haven't actually got
that seems
around to
like the
playing it.
constellation nominee, like like it couldn't fill out this category, so they just shoved it in there. Like I've
It
never heard
does.
of this game.
I've heard of it. I think it's a game. It's set in space. I think there's different planets and you jump to them and
Yeah,
you explore and all this kind of stuff. I'm not too familiar with it, but I have seen
yeah,
snippets here and there. But yeah, I'd say Death Stranding because I think
yeah,
Kojima really did something unique with this
yeah,
game that other people just haven't sort of experimented with.
yeah.
So what would you say, Yvette, for game direction? Would you say Death Stranding
Yeah, I'm gonna have
or
to go with
Resident
Death
Evil 2?
Stranding for this one.
Okay.
I feel like
Okay.
Resident Evil is just it's more along the line of we've seen this post-apocalyptic kind of similar sense, and there's been a lot of Resident Evil throughout the years. I would say that Death Stranding has something new to offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got an
Resident Evil.
original vision.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 is very much a replication of the original,
Yeah,
right?
the original.
So it doesn't really require that much innovation and creative vision to take something that's been done before and reproduce it almost, but like with bells and whistles attached to it. Okay, so I think we're pretty unanimous in Death
Yeah, we
Stranding
are. Yeah.
being game direction. So we can discuss this one briefly. Games for impact, for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. So the nominees are Concrete Genie by Pixelopus or Pixopolis, I think. Gris by Nomada Studio. Kind Words by Pop Cannibal. Life is Strange 2 by Don't Nod. And Sea of Solitude by Joe May Games. So what do you think
I've
about
heard
this one?
about Sea of Solitude, but the only one I'd really be familiar with, even a little bit, would be Life is Strange too. That
Yeah.
always deals with a lot of social topics and issues.
Yeah. I haven't played any of these. I do plan on playing Life is Strange 2 in the future. But if I were to vote, even though I didn't play any of these games, I would go with Life is Strange 2 because I've played the first one, so I'm kind of familiar with what goes on with that.
Yeah.
Same.
But then the others, I don't know.
I mean, from what I know about Sea of Solitude, is it deals with depression, right? It deals with loneliness and depression, and just to kind of say for something that just resonates with me personally.
Yeah.
But once again, like it's something I'm not too sure about with this category.
Yeah.
I mean, Life is Strange I've played as well, like so there'd be familiarity, but on message, if we're basing it around message, Sea of Solitude just resonates, I think, with me personally. From the message that I understand that it delivers.
Yeah, overall, I wouldn't vote for any. Like, I wouldn't vote because I haven't played any of these.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But just like a
It's
general
like
sort of
Celestial.
discussion about it.
Yeah.
Deals with the isolation, loneliness, depression. As far as topics for social impact, I would definitely put more emphasis on the depression and social, that kind of thing. But as far as games go, I haven't played any of these, so
I mean,
I'd only go for,
something I do want to just quickly point out about Sea of Solitude that's quite interesting is that it's published by EA. Which to me is actually a very interesting kind of thing because EA don't typically tend to put out games that are like this. If I'm totally honest, it's very much kind of AAA sort of cash grab. So it's interesting to see an EA artistic kind of game that the EA sort of decided this developer has an interesting and that they're just interested in this kind of game that they put it out. This I just wanted to like point out because I found that kind of interesting as I was looking at it. Okay, let's move on to independent game. So, of course, this is probably rehashing indie stuff, but I did just want to quickly mention Katana Zero by I think it's published by Devolver Digital. It's developed by ASCII Soft, I think it's called.
Yes.
And
ASCII.
honestly, like even though I chose Disco Elysium, I do think this has a good chance of being a runner-up. It's basically like Hotline Miami if it was a side scroller rather than a top-down view.
Yeah.
And I do really like the setting and the because I've seen people playing it. I've sort of seen bits and pieces, so I did just kind of want to quickly talk about
Yeah.
that. Um,
It's like Ninja Gaiden Strider, right? You were saying it's got that side-scrolling
yeah,
ninja
it,
samurai action. Yeah.
yeah, it's 2D noir. Well, not noir. Neo. Sorry,
Yeah.
Neo. Sort of cyber kind of setting.
Yeah.
It's set in the future, and you're playing sort of like a samurai kind of samurai mercenary, I think.
Yeah.
So it definitely, from what I've seen of it, could do. But I chose Disco Elysium again.
Okay.
And of course, we've got mobile games, which we'll skip over because we don't really have
Yeah.
much connection with this. We've
Nobody
got
gives a crap about mobile games.
yeah,
At least not us.
like, yeah, we don't really have much affinity to it, really.
One thing I
Um,
want to put out is that I heard a lot of things about Call of Duty's loot boxes being extremely like unfair in the sense that they do it so you can spend $300 in order for you to get only a skin. Like, for example, you want to get the biggest and baddest skin in the whole game, right? You want to show off your gun skills. At the same time, think people like, oh crap, look at his skin and his gun. So most of the people that buy these loot boxes want to feel that. They want to feel like, oh, I know this guy's looking at my gun, how cool it is, right? I spent $300
Yeah.
on this skin. But apparently the loot boxes ratios and how to win each is so unproportionate that a lot of people are ranting about it on YouTube. I've been hearing lots and lots of
That
things
doesn't
about
surprise me, man.
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
recurring mobile game practice. I think I've
Yeah.
seen a lot is to get people to spend as much as possible because these games are free. But yeah, the next category is multiplayer game. I don't know if you want to chip in with this one, Yvette. I don't know if this is more your kind of own personal thing because they've got Tetris 99 and they've got
I hate that
you know,
game.
but I didn't know whether you wanted to chip into this one Yvette yourself because I feel
So
I've done a lot of personal ones, but
I've
this
played
one-
all of them.
Okay.
I played Borderlands 3. I personally wasn't very into it as per se.
Okay.
I would say out of all the categories here, maybe Borderlands 3 might maybe, but at least for my taste, like I didn't like Borderlands 3. A lot of people
Okay.
might have, but comparing with story and multiplayer, I would say Borderlands 3 cuz Call of Duty has, let's just say, has co-op and has like the story and multiplayer, but I think it's more directed when you play the story, it's more like a single player kind of story, less of that multiplayer or co-op. Even though you can do it, I feel like it's more directly for like single player. Unlike Borderlands
Okay.
3, it's like you can literally match yourself with squad mates and go ahead, and even though you can do it single player as well, it has that vibe of playing more with friends. Borderlands 3. Apex Legends, Astounding. This is a tough one because I personally don't play any of these games as much as a lot of people do. So
Mhm.
the possibility, I think the one that's gonna win, it's between Borderlands 3 and Call of Duty.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So the next one we can really dig our teeth into here. Next
Nice.
category is narrative. So for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game. So the nominees for this category are A Plague Tale: Innocence by Asobo, or published by Focus Home. Control is Remedy once again. Death Stranding is Kojima Productions. We also have Disco Elysium by Zar. We've got and we've also got The Outer Worlds, developed by Obsidian. So those are the nominees for narrative.
I could only
Very-
give it to personally. I could only give it to Death Stranding, but what I think will win is Plague Tale. From everything I've heard from you
Yeah.
guys
Oof.
and everything I've heard around Plague Tale and its narrative and its
I
character. Yeah,
I'm very confident in saying Plague Tale Innocence. I think narratively that is the
Yeah.
strongest game there. You know, Outer Worlds had great writing, great world building, but I never felt it utilized its narrative and blended it into the gameplay. Whereas I think A Plague Tale Innocence pretty much did that. The rats, right? They were the very kind of point and focus for A Plague Tale Innocence of a narrative and the world and everything around it actually transpired into elements of the game. So
yeah.
I feel both from a narrative aspect, the story, it was a very intimate, very emotional kind of tale being told between, siblings.
I would
Um,
say you guys always recommend me watching playing God of War. In a sense of that of father and son situation, I felt like the Plague Tale's Innocence has that sister and brother kind of vibe, and it has
Yeah.
feelings. It has there's a lot of emotion put into this game. And this game, I literally sat there when I stopped playing it. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, it's a very good game. Narrative, gameplay wise, as in the mechanics, it could have been better, but everything that aside, I can just put that aside because the whole story and the way that it portrayed the story and their feelings and the era in the plague and how it was, there were some elements that you were surprised, like, what? No way. And it give you that cliffhanger ending. That cliffhanger ending is still stuck in my head from the day that I finished the game, that I still want another game for the Plague Tale Innocence. I definitely think that Plague Tale deserves to win this category. Even though
definitely.
Death Stranding is a very strong competitor, and Control.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
Plague Tales can easily win this too.
Yeah, I feel very confident in Plague Tale. You said Death Stranding, Mo, because of course that's
Yeah.
you've
I mean,
played Outer Worlds as well.
yeah, a little bit of Outer Worlds I've played. I feel like narrative is not a word I'd use for Outer Worlds. I feel like it's such a your experience with that game is so subjective. It just depends on how you play it. You know what I mean? Like, I do feel the writing's good. I mean, if you could say the writing of Outer Worlds, then yeah. But because it's so reliant on player agency and choice and the way you go, I don't know if I could say that I felt anything of a cohesive narrative, or if I could attach to these characters because of the character models and the way they emote. They don't really emote, apart from like the main characters, like Patel, whatever the name is, the main one. These characters look so stiff and Fallouty or Skyrim-y that you can't really invest emotion in what the core narrative is, but you can
Yeah, no,
respond to the
I agree.
writing. Yeah, so Stranding has performance, story, definitive characters, expression, music, like. So I'd give it to that. Plus, the themes of it I really resonate with, and the character, Sam.
Yeah.
He's isolated. He's very alone. He's a cynic, pessimist cynic, and he's just trudging along. And I really I really like that world. So I'd give it to that. But I know Plague Tale probably deserves it and probably will get it. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're giving it to Death Stranding?
Yeah, I'd give it to Death Stranding. But I
Okay.
think
I would say
Plague Tale will get it. Yeah.
I would say A Plague Tale kind of, even with the gameplay, you felt the story. Okay.
Yeah.
So with Death Stranding, the weird thing that I feel about Death Stranding is that you have those cutscenes and you have the delivering stuff, but there's like a really big gap in between
Yeah.
certain hours of the games that really don't give you anything except you. Like, it's a kind of like side missions. Like, they're forcing you to do side missions as main missions, when in reality you don't. You wanna do main missions. You want the story, but it cuts
Yeah.
it into a way and it gaps it that it's kind of uncomfortable, in a sense that
Yeah.
there's a point where you get tired of it and you get like
Yeah.
burnt out and you're like, man, like when am I gonna get this? And some people even drop it at a very wrong point. If you drop
Yeah.
it like after playing it 25 hours and you haven't even gotten to the point where it actually hits, because it actually hits you when you're
Yeah.
almost at, I would say 30 to 32 hours in the game. When you hit
Yeah.
32 hours, that's when it starts, when it jumps, when it hits that.
That's what Kojima
like,
said. 50
yeah,
hours, you're probably gonna appreciate 50% of the
yeah,
way through the game.
yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I give it to Plague Tale, because of that gap. If it wasn't for that, I would probably give it to Death Stranding. But I think
All
Plague
right.
Tale deserves something. At least
Okay.
something.
We'll gloss over the next thing because I think it's rehashing a lot of stuff. It's ongoing game, the same one that we
Ah,
had for Communities, right?
Yeah, I would
So I'm
just
going to
skip
skip
it,
over
that
that.
one.
Skip over that. The next one is performance. So awarded to an individual for voiceover acting, motion, and/or performance capture. So the nominees are Ashley Birch as Parvati Holcomb in The Outer Worlds,
She was
Courtney
actually kind of
Hope,
cool.
Courtney Hope as Jessie Faden in Control. We have Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz in Gears 5. We have Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff in Death Stranding. We have Matthew Peretta as Dr. Casper Darling in Control. And we have Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding.
Let me
you got two
point
Death
out.
Strandings in one category.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
point out Mads Mikkelsen. From
Oh.
what, without spoiling it too much, Mads Mikkelsen, I feel like, nah, if I say I'm gonna spoil it, I'd rather not say anything.
Nah,
But I
no,
think
you know what I want to say?
Go ahead.
That was a performance. That Mads Mikkelsen was a bona fide performance because
But here's the
he
thing,
has no lines in the game, but I can tell by his face, expressions, you feel it. You feel what this guy's going through in all those little sections.
that's true. Yeah, he does not have any lines. He does, but it's just his appearance feels very minimal.
Yeah, but he
Doesn't-
does so much with so little. Like you get to see him for 15 to 20 seconds in those little vignettes or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But you get to build up a picture. His
You build up a
expressions
story.
are so subtle. Yeah.
Mm.
Like people say he's just playing Hannibal, right? But nah, there's more than that. There's a lot of sadness, hope, anger, despair in that performance. Owen Reedus, who says more, but it just doesn't give me an emotional, at least not where I'm at, an emotional.
No.
Mads Mikkelsen, I
Well,
want to give it to.
I'm gonna have to
be
give.
honest against the actor.
I think I'm
I've
gonna
seen
have
it.
to give it to Norman
No.
because of
Okay.
the ending. But you'll
Okay.
it'll get.
See,
You'll
who
see.
I've picked for this is very different. I voted for Matthew Peretta as Dr. Casper Darling in Control. His performance is nothing short of something special. It was very close, Mads Mikkelsen or Matthew Peretta, and I originally went with Mads Mikkelsen. But there's something about Matthew Peretta's performance. It's almost like he plays I don't want to say too much, but he plays two different kinds of things in this kind of thing in the game, and the way that he's able to play both of these kind of things is very different, and it's very entertaining to see him. When I see him appear in the game or in the segments that he's in, I almost go out seeking his sections because some of them are like videotapes or like hidden collectible things. So I actively go out seeking them because I want to just see his performance as this character, because it's so engrossing, it's so involving, engaging. And there's just something about it that makes you want to know, who is this dude? Like, who is this character? What is his involvement in the whole mystery of the game? And his performance is what sells that. He's like, it feels so natural. It feels like such a natural performance that he's able to like sift through and shift and change. And it's something truly spectacular from an actor that perhaps not many people really know.
Yeah.
So definitely I wanted to vote for him. It was very close between Mads Mikkelsen and him, but his performance was something special, something very, very
Yeah.
special. And I would love people to see it for themselves, because it is a very, very interesting character that I think
Yeah.
he brings to life really well.
You know, Yvette, I can speak to it, and Yvette can speak to it. Kate from Gears 5. The
Yeah,
only
she
thing with
did.
Kate is that she's just a Laura Bailey performance. Like, she's not like special, I wouldn't say, like, as a performance. You know what I mean? What do you think of
Yeah.
her performance?
She was all right. A performance as a, I guess it's not Laura Bailey. It's more of like the performance as Kat itself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I don't know what to say about that. I think she did pretty well, but I think also the story has to do a lot with how the character evolves and how they do character
Yeah.
development and all that stuff that brings a lot of things. Like, for example, the way that, because Matt Mickelson, the way that it's too much, it's too different to compare them. I can't really say, because the story
Yeah.
also within the game and how they portray each character also have a big impact in the way these performances occur. Like Matt
Yeah.
Mickelson, like you said, was quiet but powerful.
Yeah.
And then you have Matthew, which Baker consistently says that he's the way the entertainment that he portrayed in his character,
Yeah.
and not just having one character but multiple characters, and
Yeah.
it's kind of different, I would say. There's also Courtney Hope. What do you think of Courtney as a Jesse in Control?
It was, she definitely played the character really well, but as compared to like Matthew Peretta, it was a good performance. Like, I'm not going to take that away from her, but
Yeah.
in
She
terms
had a
of,
dry performance, didn't she? Like, just
it was
not
fairly
bad, but
dry,
as in dry performance. Yeah.
and I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
When you played the game, but when you compare it to something like Matthew Peretta's performance in Control, Courtney's just not up there. Like Ashley Birch as well, like, was very much her playing an Ashley Birch kind of character, very
Yeah.
charismatic, very goofy, kind of bit of a like a ditzy kind of like, like, fun, bubbly character. So I didn't really
Yeah.
feel as if it was anything new. But yeah, Courtney Hope was good. Courtney Hope was definitely good, but I wouldn't say that she's worthy of winning. Okay, so we'll move on to the next category. Next category is role-playing game. So for the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. So for the nominees, we have Disco Elysium by Zar again. We have Final Fantasy XIV by Square Enix. We have Kingdom Hearts 3 by Square Enix. We have Monster Hunter World Iceborne by Capcom. And we have The Outer Worlds by Obsidian. So those are the nominees for this category.
I'd give it to Kingdom Hearts 3, but I think Monster Hunter World will win it. Yeah.
Okay.
I loved Kingdom Hearts 3 because of my bias, and I've never been too much of a Monster Hunter World fan, but even I noticed when it came out. I just feel Kingdom Hearts is such a mainstay, you know what I mean, as far as the role-playing genre goes. So I couldn't not give it to it, but I think Monster Hunter World will give it. Critically and commercially, it was just hit out the park. Yeah.
Okay, so I would say Monster Hunter World as well.
Okay. I'd actually not. I'll tell you which one I voted for, but I do think Outer Worlds as a role-playing game was very solid.
Yeah.
You have a lot of stuff that you can do with your character and how you want him to be and what stats you want him to have, and it also plays
that's
off
very
into
true.
the other party members. You can decide how
Mechanically,
they're
yeah.
built. So when we're talking about role-playing games, mechanically, Outer Worlds is definitely up there, I think, as
Yeah.
a contender. But I have to say, Disco Elysium for me as a role-playing game was so rich, so in-depth. There's so much you can do in that game, and how you build him up, and
Yeah.
the skills that you give to him, and also it's how you interact with the environment as well. How you interact with the environment might very well change how your character is. And so Disco Elysium for me felt like the most solid role-playing game. But like you said, I do think Monster Hunter World could win it because it's just such has an extensive fan base. It's definitely recognized, and I think there's a lot of people who probably would say that was their favorite role-playing game of the year. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
Critically and commercially, it covered both. But apparently, it's Capcom's most profitable game. It beat Street Fighter, it beat Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
So they've got every base covered. I don't think there was any
Mm.
bad word to say against it. So because of that, I think it got so much steam that it's gonna win it. But I just want to give it to Kingdom Hearts because when I think
Yeah.
role playing, it's been such a long time since I played something Obsidian or Bethesda that it just sticks out to me, Kingdom Hearts. For many reasons. Sentimentality more than mechanics and more than writing and more than,
Okay.
core gameplay. Yeah, but I agree with
Yeah.
you on Outer Worlds. Mechanically, that's a very meaty role-playing game. It just depends on where people are coming from. What's more important, like Disco Elysium, the character, the writing, or the mechanics, or the if it's a tentpole game, all that kind of thing.
Mm. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next category, which is score and music. So for outstanding music, inclusive of score, original song, and/or licensed soundtrack. So the nominees for this are Cadence of Hyrule, which is Brace Yourself Games, published by Nintendo. We have Death Stranding by Kojima Productions. We have Devil May Cry 5 by Capcom. We have Kingdom Hearts 3 by Square Enix, and we have Sayonara Wild Hearts by Simogo or Simogo. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce some of these developer names. I've never really seen much
Yeah.
of. Okay, so those are the nominees.
I'll say just quickly, I'll say I think it will come down to, in my opinion, Kingdom Hearts 3 and Death Stranding. I think Devil May Cry's soundtrack is too acquired. I mean, they already had the controversy about the heavy metal screeching for Dante's theme before the game even came out. So Capcom took out the lyrics because people were saying, we just want to hear the music, we don't want the screech metal. So I think there was too much subjectivity to that score. I want to give it to Kingdom Hearts, but I think Death Stranding will get it because it's got the low, raw, Silent Poets score, which is just so beautiful, man. It's just got a
Yeah,
great license.
Death Stranding.
Yeah.
And what I liked about how Kojima did it is that during each part of your travels, you never know when the song was going to happen. So it wasn't like you can play the song while you're driving, or you can play the song actually happened in certain moments that really hits you. For example, you're walking, I'm like walking down a mountain, right? And that song just out of nowhere starts playing and then fits the scene of you carrying and then thinking about the way he's thinking, the moments that he's going through, the terrain, the harsh weather, the hard work that he's putting into, and then the song just hitting you at that moment, and you're like, oh man, this is really good. Every time that happens, I always got me to like, damn, that's a good moment to play the song.
Even the song at the beginning of the game, like "Don't Be So Serious," right, by Low Raw, I was like, that's so perfect for this character. It's not just music for the sake of music. The lyrics even are to do with the character and the world,
It captures you.
It captures everything,
Definitely, yeah, I gotta agree. For me, it's Kingdom Hearts 3 is also a very solid choice. I thought that there's a lot of particular tracks in that one I felt were very moving in a different way than perhaps Death Stranding's were. But definitely for me, I've got to say Death Stranding. There's just so much. There's so much music in that game that is breathtaking. You stop for a minute just to listen to the music and view the world, and it fits with the in-game world itself, where you're looking at all these desolate kind of empty fields and mountains and stuff, so you can really feel the music. So yeah,
I feel like I think with Kingdom Hearts will only get sentimentality votes. It's got remixes of music we're so familiar with over the last 10 years. Like I teared up when I heard like Twilight Town's remix, in the beginning of the game. I think sentimentality is what does it for me. But I think if we're looking at this game like Death Stranding, I think it's just got an amazing soundtrack. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll have to potentially speed things along just a tad bit more. We
Okay,
can very
okay.
quickly gloss over sports and racing games.
I think the only thing that I can say about sports and racing games is Crash Team Racing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's the only one on there that I've played, to be
Yeah,
honest.
same here.
And I think it's just fun to play with friends. It's a
Yeah.
decent game. But apart from
It
that,
should
I haven't
win.
really got much else to say.
Yeah.
Strategy games. This is another one that perhaps both of you aren't too familiar with. I'm kind of familiar with strategy games. I play quite a few of them. For me, probably Total War: Three Kingdoms. For me, I feel that the Total War franchise is basically, for me, it's what kind of is what strategy is all about. You have armies, you go out and you have huge scale battles with these armies and stuff. But I could definitely easily see like Fire Emblem's Three Houses taking it away because it's got a story attached to it as well.
Yeah,
So,
Fire Emblem might.
yeah, but for me, Total War: Three Kingdoms, it just sort of it completely fills what a strategy game is. It's you build up your empires, you take them into huge scale battles, and you try to see who comes up on
Have you
top.
played Tropico 6?
I've played the Tropico franchise before. It's a city management kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when I
okay.
feel strategy, I'm thinking of huge scale kind of things, thinking through the next move you're going to make, very much like a chessboard in a sense. You're thinking, how's your opponent going to react? How should you react? And that's what I feel like the Total War franchise has done really solidly, and Three Kingdoms is just an addition onto the strategy sort of aspect. So we'll
Yeah.
move on to VR games. So Yvette is the only one here who'd have any kind of connection to. So I'll quickly read out the nominees, and then you can kind of take it away from there. We've got Asgard's Wrath by Sanzaru Games. We've got Blood and Truth by SIE London Studio. We've got Beat Saber by Beat Games. We've got No Man's Sky by Hello Games, and we've got Trover Saves the Universe by Squanch Games.
Now, for this category, I would have to say Beat Saber because I don't know, you feel so immersed with those. You feel like you're in Star Wars, just playing this music and immersing yourself with these sabers and stuff like that. Although I haven't played Asgard Wrath, Blood of the Truth. I have played No Man's Sky, yet I haven't played it on VR. I do want to try it. The only problem that I have with No Man's Sky is the capability and the optimization of that game in its current state. Like, for where it's at from where it was 4 years ago when it first came out, I think that game has changed a hell of a lot. It kind of did like a Destiny 2 in a sense, where it kind of revamped everything, and now you can say it's kind of like a proper game. I really want to play it because it falls into the category of the survival games, and I really enjoy survival games. And unfortunately, something occurred with my computer where it kind of crashed and stuff like that because of the game. So I'm gonna have to go with Beat Saber because this is the one that I've played the most, that I feel like I can even go on YouTube and watch people play it the most, and it's the one that I kind of mostly recognize out of this whole.
Yeah. From what I've seen
category.
you play of this Beat Saber game, I think accessibility is the name of the game. I think the more accessible a VR game is, I think the better for now.
The better.
So even I'd say VR. I mean, Beat Saber's a good shout. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to try Asgard and Blood It's Truth. These two seems to be up here in the VR category games of the best experience and playable in VR. I definitely want to give these a try to see what's up.
Okay, well, now we move on to the pudding, the grand feast that this has all been leading up to. We've now reached the Game of the Year category. So this is for recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. So these are the nominees. We have Control by Remedy. We have Death Stranding by Kojima Productions. We have Resident Evil 2 Remake by Capcom. We have Sekiro Shadows Die Twice by From Software. We have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate by Sora or Bandai Namco. And we have The Outer Worlds by Obsidian. So
Here's what we should do. I think starting with you, Baker. You, me, then Yvette. We sound off our personal game of the year, and then we go
personal.
through what we think will win. I think
Okay.
because it's such a meaty section. So yeah, you start with what you personally want to be a game of the year.
Okay, so for me personally, which game I felt of all of these was the most universally good game out of this year, out of the ones that I've personally played, is Control. I think for me, that game was so. It wasn't that it was so different, but it was so solid. It was what Remedy have taken and crafted over their other games, Alan Wake and Quantum Break. And this, to me, feels like the perfect blend that they finally created this perfect version of their previous games, sort of combined them together, the best aspects, and created it's almost like the past two games were them testing the waters in a sense, and Control was the final sort of merging of everything together. I thought the story and mystery surrounding this universe was interesting. I thought the characters and what they were doing within the world was intriguing. The world itself is it's a very different kind of world. It's, if you could imagine, like X-Files blended with perhaps, maybe, I know that there's like an internet fandom for like this sort of SCP kind of thing, like weird creations, weird abnormal things from different universes. This whole idea of a bureau that investigates, right? These kind of things, and this whole sort of mystery surrounding it. And there's a lot of really creative ideas in there. There's a lot of really great technical aspects of the game as well, just lighting. When you walk into a room, like I said, there's some really sort of really kind of creepy kind of atmosphere that's been created by the environment around you. And it's just, there's freedom to explore, but it feels linear enough to keep you on track. You're not taking 50 hours to complete this game. It's a much shorter experience, and I feel that's, for me, that's what blends together into what I think is my game of the year, is Control. Okay, so who wants to go next?
Yeah, I would say RE2. My heart just keeps telling me RE2. As much as Death Stranding and Sekiro are valid because I played those games, and as much as I really respect Control and I really want to play that, maybe revalue, I think RE2, because I think it's unprecedented, at least in my knowledge, for a remake of an old game to be in the Game of the Year contender or category. So it tells you that it's done something, right? And I feel like I played the old RE2, and I feel like it's not just a remake. It's a game in and of itself. It's not like Medieval, like a remake, or just up-resed or Grim Fandango. It's a full-on, from the ground up remake. Everything great about what made RE2, an amazing game. It's there, but it's done something new. It's taken bits from all the Resident Evil history, RE4, Revelation, and it's just fused it into this thing that feels like traditionally RE, but pushes it in directions. I think we already discussed this: the sound design, the character design. The game's got so many great extras, character models, unlockables. They managed to squeeze in stuff that people thought wouldn't be possible. Like they've been saying, we can't make a FF7 game as big, in one game as big as the other one. RE2 had like 2 campaigns and then 2 variations of those campaigns. All of those are in the game. It's feature rich. It's got no, paid microtransaction BS, no unlockable skins, and none of this. It seems to be like a game that wouldn't come out nowadays. And I think for all those reasons, and it being not this open world, grindathons bullshit fest, being a nice, decent length with good replayability, I feel it's just my game of the year. I have a bias, I'm not gonna lie, with Resident Evil as a franchise and horror in general. But I feel like it was such a joy to play, and it was such a joy to replay it over and over and over again. That it's got a charm, man. It's got that charm, 90s charm, still there for a 2019 game. So I just undeniably had to give it to RE2. Like, I
Okay.
couldn't floor that game in any way. Yeah.
Mm.
For me, even though I've played Death Stranding, I can't see myself putting it under the game of the year. I don't know why. I think it was just because of that 50-hour gap that kind of killed it for me. And I would say that if it does get your game of the year, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be flipping out on this for some reason. I have a feeling because it's such a mixed feeling game, mixed feeling emotions
Very
everywhere
divisive,
from everywhere around the world, that game of the year is just like setting it like, oh, it's because it's Kojima, we gotta give it game of the year. You know what I'm saying? Resident Evil 2, I don't know. I haven't played Control. I feel like Control might win game of the year.
What's your pick? What's
What's
your
your
pick for
personal?
game of the year?
My
Your
personal pick, I can't pick any of these.
You can.
I would say, I don't know. I just can't. I can't decide whether one or. So I'm just gonna wait to see what's the majority of what people say.
Okay. So. Okay.
So if I were to vote, if I would have to
pick.
vote, no, I would go for Control, even though
You
I
go
haven't
for
played that
Control.
game. Yeah.
Okay. What about Sekiro or Resident Evil 2? How do you feel about them as
Okay,
games, or
so-
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate even?
So I played Super Smash. I feel like Super Smash is more of a multiplayer type of game to play with family or other categories. Game of the year, I wouldn't say so much. None of these that are in this category are like these are all, if you think about it, they're all kind of story driven games. The top
What if
3,
Star
which is
Wars was in it?
Control. If Star
What if
Wars
Star
were in
Wars
it, I was
was in it?
actually
Smash Bros. Yeah.
probably I would go for Star Wars, but
Okay.
I'm still driven for some reason. I'm still driven to pick Control. I don't know why.
Okay.
Children to pick Control.
I've seen trailers. I've seen people play Control. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but the only thing is, I want to pick Death Stranding. I want to like just go for that
Yeah, I know what you
because
mean.
the story is amazing. Everything about it I personally loved. It's just that there's something about it that is just something killed it for me. I don't know what it was. I think it was just because
On
it took too
principle,
long
right?
to get to
On
the point.
principle, you don't want to give it Game of the Year, right?
Yeah,
On
on principle.
You don't think it's worthy of that, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that if we're talking about games, Death Stranding feels more like a movie than a game.
Yeah,
in a
if
lot
it
of
was a
ways.
movie, I would give it like movie of the year.
I think for me, if Death Stranding had gameplay similar to MGS5, I would have given it Game of the Year. If it had more variety, it had a bit more kind of, just felt more like a game rather than an experience. And I think when you're making a game, you have to think the player is going to be playing this. You can't be thinking about what you want and the ideas that you have in your head. You have to think, how does this feel for someone who isn't
Yes.
in my head, who doesn't know my thoughts, who doesn't know
I
what I'm
feel
trying to do
like-
here? How does this play? And it doesn't really play. It's very much an experience that it plays for you in a sense, and you're just sort of there being guided along.
I feel like
He-
that
he wa-
wasn't. He didn't think too much about what other people kind of wanted. He kind of threw something in there, expecting people to want it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that he has such a like renown with the gaming community, right? So I guess he expected them to be positive to another one of his games.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
What
go
do you think?
for what we think is going to win, not what we want, what we think is going to win. So maybe we'll do it in reverse. Yvette, you go first for what you think is going to win.
I
Game of the
think
Year.
Death Stranding.
You think Death Stranding? Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? I feel like it's just something that people game of the year in the sense that this is the most talked game, the most anticipated game, the most like everything. Everyone literally jumped the ship of Death Stranding. Even some people just started playing it for like 10 minutes and they didn't like it. Like as soon as they started it, they just want to even streamers. I've seen streamers just open up the game and then just play like 20 minutes of it and then just change back to Call of Duty just to be in that hype of Death Stranding, Kojima, and release this game. Everyone, oh my gosh, expecting this for 3 or 4 years. Did it
Cultural
reach?
impact, yeah.
Did it reach my expectations after waiting so long to play that game? Yes and no. I wasn't expecting too much after a while, but then like at the beginning I was expecting everything, but then once I played it, I was like, it was pretty good. But here's minding you, I haven't finished the game, so
Yeah.
I have to complete the
But why
game
do you think
completely
that
to
means
do.
it'll win? Why do you think being indecisive on it means it will win? Cultural impact of it, the
Yeah,
buzz,
yeah. I think it's the buzz. It's everyone. Oh, I know Death Stranding. Click vote. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like
So more.
Control it has been
okay.
too under the ground. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I think as well. Okay.
I
More.
think RE2 remake's gonna win. I think it's gonna be a similar situation like last year. Everyone fucking thought that Red Dead Redemption 2 was gonna win because people's memory of God of War at the early part of the year was there. But you can rely on these critics to not have a short memory. So then God of War got it right, and then RDR2 didn't. I feel like Resident Evil came out at the early part of this year, and people think, oh, everyone's gonna forget it for Death Stranding. I don't think that's the case. I
Yeah, that's
honestly
true.
think
Okay.
Resident Evil 2 remake, like last year, is going to win it because critics have a longer memory than 3 months. So that's
Yeah, a
the
lot of
yeah.
people are gonna be like, Death Stranding 3 months.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I 100% agree with Moen. I think Resident Evil 2 is going to win it. Because I think a lot of people who were unfamiliar with the Resident Evil franchise picked it up and actually, like, I don't want to mention too many names, but people who probably wouldn't be playing these
Yeah.
kind of games. They're
Yeah, that's
more
true.
accustomed to sort of the more mainstream battle royale kind of stuff. Even they picked up the game and they finished it. They did both campaigns. They finished everything in terms of the story of the game. So for a game to do that, to rise to that kind of level, I think there's going to be a lot of people taking notice of that. And I think especially with Capcom's recent, especially this year and last year, the amount of stuff that they've been doing, it's going to be fresh in a lot of people's minds, I think. Resident Evil 2 being another kind of reason why Capcom is evolving back to sort of its old self.
Yeah.
That having been said, I do think not as much as Resident Evil 2, but I do think Sekiro also has a good chance of winning it.
That's it. Yeah.
But I wouldn't.
On nipping on the heels. Yeah.
But I do firmly believe I think Resident Evil 2 is going to win it because I do think it's encompassed an audience of people that have never really played a Resident Evil game before. It's introduced them to this world and it's made them
Yeah.
interested, and I think people are going to notice that. So that's what I think. I agree with Moen. This game is probably what's going to have people going, okay, yeah, I remember that game. I remember Resident Evil 2, and I remember that it was a really solid game. So that's what
Will
I
you
think.
be surprised if Death Stranding or Resident Evil 2 don't get it?
I wouldn't be surprised about Death Stranding, but I would be surprised at RE2. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be surprised if neither of those two got it and one of the other 4 games got it. I'd definitely be surprised. Maybe if it was Sekiro, maybe not as much, but I definitely would go, hold on, that's interesting that people didn't go for this game. I'd be super surprised if Smash Bros. Ultimate won. Like that would be the most surprising one for me. I think Outer Worlds, maybe I don't think would win it, but I do think the most surprising one and the most interesting one to be there anyway is Smash Bros. Ultimate. So I think if that one, I would be the most surprised out of all of them. If that game
True, it's interesting that it's there too.
It is, yeah. It's very a fighting game being put on there.
It's an outlier, definitely in that bunch of games. We're very big outlier. Yeah.
Smash Bros is kind of fun. Not gonna lie, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all the categories. We've said our piece. We've sort of talked about all the games and shared our opinions. Some of us have even changed what we've thought previously. So this discussion was definitely productive in one way or another. Like people are actively sort of thinking, and I hope this brings up discussion. And when the VGAs do come around and we react to it, it's going to be interesting to see now that we've discussed pre-VGA how it's all going to play out. And I suppose one thing that we do need to talk about very quickly is what do we think other than awards? There's very likely, well, almost 100% going to be some reveals, right? Some trailers for games similar to what happened last year. There was the odd trailer or two. So what trailers do you think could appear? Maybe games we don't even know exist yet.
Or one
So
thing I would say is that we literally just before we started this podcast, the news came out, right, that RE3 remake already has cover art on PSN, right?
mm,
So I feel as though they're setting up for RE2 winning Game of the Year and then some sort of RE3 remake trailer reveal. It just seems too
you
perfect,
think?
these two pieces of news coming. I know
Mm,
there are going to be reveals from independent studios and new studios, like the guy who left Arcane, right? Who made Dishonored, he's going to do that. But I think RE3 remake is going to be the big reveal at the VGAs. I
I'm
think,
just
yeah.
looking forward to seeing
Based on
more
news.
about Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah,
Cyberpunk. That
Yeah.
yeah, I do see. I do think we're very likely to get a Cyberpunk, another Cyberpunk trailer. I also
Or
feel,
gameplay even.
yeah, just scaling it down just a tiny bit.
yeah,
From Software, I think they usually with their games they partner at least one or two DLCs. And Sekiro came out this year. There's been no word of any story DLC or anything other than that. I think it's possible that we could have some announcement of a DLC for Sekiro. And the thing that I think is it's going to be set as a prequel. It's going to be set what I think is getting Chiro, right, and
yeah,
him before you fight him in Sekiro, and before everything you see in Sekiro comes to light. It's going to
yeah,
follow Genichiro as the main character for this prequel DLC.
yeah,
That's what I think. It might not happen. We might instead get From Software revealing more about their other game that they're working on. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But that they revealed it, I think, a year ago, right? They revealed they were working on it. So I think it's very possible we could just something from Software. I think a
yeah,
reveal of some description. I think is very possible.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, like I think that's what's going to happen in terms of
yeah.
reveals.
I think there will be one or two really big reveals there, and that could be definitely one of them. One of them, if not the biggest. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Okay.
We'll see.
What about
It's
you?
just gonna be
Yeah,
exciting
we'll have to see.
for
We'll be
the
doing
end of for the upcoming weeks when VGA starts
Yeah,
yeah, we'll be
to
doing a
build
yeah,
up the hype.
reaction to the VGAs as well. We'll probably live stream it, I think. I think we're going to be live streaming that on the Bant Nation Mixer account, but
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. There'll be like more details on that, I suppose, as we get closer
yeah.
to the day, whether we can do it or not. But we'll definitely record. We'll definitely record if we don't live stream.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the
Yeah, it's going to be
predictions
very
came true.
interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's about
Well,
it.
that
So,
concludes our podcast on the pre-VGA. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, then comment below and think, I don't know, give us your opinions on what you think is the game of the year or what's going to win for the VGA in the upcoming weeks. So yeah,
okay,
thank you for
well,
watching.
take care.
take care.